Hi everyone, Deborah Lynn here in the studio. I hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to be painting some white orchids and I'm going to show you how I put my spin on them. And I have my sidekick Skitty here with me for a brief time in the video. And she's going to watch the process also. These are just artificial orchids that I picked up from an area store, and I thought, you know what, they're actually kind of cool. I liked all the green. If you notice the vessel right there, it's like a lighter green on the inside, so I was really inspired by that lighter green color, and I'm going to pull that color up into the leaves a bit. I'm going to put in the dark leaves, but I'm also going to pull that light green that's in that vessel up into the arrangement. So it's going to be, I'm going to be inspired by this. I'm not going to paint it to look exactly like this, but I'm going to keep things very loose, a bit like if somebody's looking at my painting, they might not know exactly what kind of flowers they're looking at. That's what I'm going for, kind of a semi-abstract kind of feel here in a clear container. So right now I'm prepping my paper. This is Fabriano Artistico paper, and it's a full sheet, and I'm gonna fold it in half. And what I do is I wet the spine of the paper and then fold it and wet it again, fold it, and to break down the fibers, and then I can tear it. But what I'm doing right now is I'm getting my palette. I have a very, my tray is very dirty with a mix of blues and greens right there. And no, blues and purples. And I'm going in and I'm creating a dirty bath of water that I'm going to use for my white flowers. So that's what's happening here. I've got the dirty palette paint. Then I threw in a little bit of violet and a touch of blue, and you can make yours however you want. It just needs to have that, a flower, a white flower has some kind of shadows going through it. So that's what I'm trying to create here. So that's put to the side. The paper's being torn and prepped here so we can get started here in just a minute. And little Skitty's off to the side to watch the whole fun. Isn't she cute? She loves watching. You can't really see her, but if you've been on my channel for a while, you've probably seen Skitty really trying to get in the middle of the whole process. But we're just gonna have to see her little feet pop in and out from time to time. She's just the most adorable thing. So anyway, I got my paper. I'm repositioning the camera a little bit just to try to elevate it a little. Sometimes it's really hard for me to get this large sheet of paper in range, so I'm going to do my best so you guys can see everything. And so that there again, that's my arrangement that I'm going to be inspired from. And you notice the light green in the vessel part that like I said, I'm going to bring that up into the actual arrangement. And I'm going to do that by bringing in some Dr. P.H. Martin bleed proof white. If you do not have this product, you can make your own with just using a tube of titanium white and just a little bit of distilled water, and mix that up until you get like a sour cream consistency. Put it in a little container, and works like a charm. Okay, so here's my container that I'm putting down. Nothing too elaborate. It's just getting a basic shape, a nice round vessel shape. And right now I'm just building that kind of the vessel, so it feels like it's clear. And so I just put just a hint of color down. So this is a really thin consistency of paint. It's not heavy in any way, so it's kind of like a tea consistency. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to change brushes, and I'm going to start building the bottom of that vase. And if you remember seeing it, those stems in there were all twisted. So that's what I'm going to kind of mimic here, is I'm going to get all this twisted look going on in that vase. And that's why I picked up the flowers. I thought this is just a really interesting arrangement with all those, what do I want to say, roots, basically, in a clear container. It's not like it was just, you know, an orchid in the mulch. It was an orchid in actual water, which is unusual, but it's really beautiful. So that's what you're seeing, all these little roots that are going every different way. And then now I'm just splashing in some water. It will give me some blooms and just add some interest, because something else needs to kind of happen to just kind of set the painting a little bit and make it a little bit interesting in that vessel. So a few little blooms here and there, embrace them. They can be absolutely beautiful in a watercolor painting. Sometimes we fret when we see we have a bloom, and I say embrace them, enjoy them. That's what watercolor is all about, is to see those beautiful things that happen. And sometimes we can actually make them happen. And that's what I did in my case here. I put those into place. Okay, so now I'm putting down serpentine green and olive green. And of course I have I think I've got green apatite genuine that's coming into play here. And then I have that whole bath of dirty green already on the palette. And that's what's on my tray. So if you're wondering what I'm using, basically that is what I'm using. So it's a mixture right there. And my brush is really wet, but I went straight into that pigment. So these leaves are gonna go down very heavy consistency. Okay, this is cream consistency. This is like sour cream consistency. It's very heavy, very thick. But I want that because, like I said, that light green that was in that vessel, I want to bring that color up. And in order to get the light green that I want, and I'm going to use that product by Dr. P.H. Martin, and that's going to mingle and mix with this heavy consistency of pigment. Now you have to work relatively quick. Now this is real time that you're watching here, so you know how quickly I'm working. Also remember, I don't have the heat on. I live in Florida. Okay? It's super humid here. So all those things come into play. So my paper will take longer to dry versus maybe somebody else that lives in like Arizona or other parts of the world where things are drier or you have the heat on. And my paper, I choose to use Fabriano Artistico paper. For me and where I live, it works the best. It never ripples on me. It lays flat always. I never have an issue with it. The ones that you buy in the full sheet, when I start getting into the blocks and stuff like that of the Artistico, I think they change their paper a little bit, and it has a tendency to want to just like lift a little bit and act weird on the block. So yeah, my favorite is just using the block paper. I mean, the full sheet of paper. Sorry, misspoke there. Okay, so you might be wondering what kind of brush is this that I'm using. I will drop a link for that brush. It is an Escoda brush. It was in a set. So if I can find the link for it, I will definitely drop all that information. I'll also drop those green colors that I have into play. Again, the whites that I'm using for the white of the flowers, I'll be using the dirty water, but I'll also be bringing in the white watercolor, the Dr. P.H. Martin bleed proof white, and just to kind of it really. What it does here is there's translucency in the painting, okay, with the watercolor. But once you bring that opaque white in, it creates an opaque effect also. And I personally like to see that juxtaposition between the opaque, which is almost to the point of using gouache, with watercolor, and I do love using gouache and watercolor together. Absolutely beautiful for painting flowers, because sometimes flowers are not always translucent. So definitely love using it. And you're going to see it come into play here, full force here, when I start getting into those leaves. Now remember, you can even see the shine on that bottom leaf. Oh wait, that's not shine. Is that shine, or is that just from the drag of the brush? But that paint is still wet, and my brush is going in. It's dancing around, and it's throwing more water down, and I'm even shaking some water down. This water is dirty. I want it to have a splashy feel. So it says, hey everybody, I'm a watercolor. So that's why I do that. Now, I don't want it to ever look like, when you get into splashing, one of the biggest mistakes we can make, and a lot of times this happens when we're first starting out and we like the splashy effect, is that we learn, oh, we can use a toothbrush, and then we use the white watercolor to put the splashes in. But a lot of times it can look like it's snowing on your painting, or maybe there's a bunch of bugs flying around, or worse yet, it looks like you stood in front of your painting brushing your teeth. So be very careful. The best time to put that down is when the paper is wet, and so that way it kind of diffuses. Okay, so it's not just sitting on top of a piece of dry paper and it's just all these white splatters or blue splatters or green splatters or whatever you might have going on. Make sure that it can diffuse out and pick up anything that doesn't look good right away. So when you work in watercolor, when you work loose and like this, you have to work fast. You can't overthink. Just freely get the paint down. Just trust your instincts and just let go. And I know that's really hard. Okay, so now I have my foundation here, and now I'm going to get the white out, and I'm going to start building that. And you're going to see that coming into play here in about 2 minutes. But you just have to get your head, you have to switch gears in your head from being, I got to make it look exactly like something. If I don't, I'm going to fail in this painting, or it's not going to look good. And you know what? There's times where I say, this does not look good, and I'll put it to the side a month or two later, and I look at it and I'll say, oh my gosh, this is really pretty. So you know what? Sometimes all you need to do is just let it go, let it be what it is, put it to the side, and revisit it. And maybe there's something that you can add to it. Okay? So now that's all I've now mingled. I put that white in, and as you can see, it's now created different values of greens. I've got lighter greens, I've got darker greens, I've got all that coming into play. And now I'm just going in with the pure white of that paint, and really, between the dirty water that's down and this opaque white, it's making these blossoms really pretty. So that's being built up right now. And some of it, that white paint's even blending a little bit with that orange and yellow that I put down. That's what I put down there for the centers. And I just kind of haphazardly put it down. I'm not being methodical and picky about it. Just get the color down. And then I go in, and as you can see, it's just, I let my paintbrush dance, okay? It's all about just trust your instincts. And the more you do this, it takes a lot of practice, but the more you do this, your own brush work will show up. The way you handle your brush will be different than the way I handle my brush. It's just the same way as your handwriting is different than my handwriting. We're all different. So our paintings are all going to look different. Okay, well, I'm nearing the end of this painting. I'm going to put a couple dark areas in just to set just a couple areas and intensify the depth just ever so slightly. And in the meantime, I want to, guys, ask you a huge favor. I'm in a little bit of an algorithm rut. can you hit the like button? Can you hit the share button? Can you subscribe? And even commenting. The more comments I get, the more engagement happens, and the more the analytics love that. So if you can please help me out, get out of this rut that I'm in with YouTube, I would greatly appreciate it. In the meantime, stay safe, stay well, and God bless. Bye for now.